the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing that is clear to me in being with all of you this afternoon is when I think of the folks that say we are all defined by how we react and how we step up under tough circumstances, that the panelists and Mr. Donalds have certainly stepped up, and I have a great deal of admiration for how you have defined yourself and helped this community. I just want to say that. Mr. Hammond, you mentioned in your opening comments that these agencies often blamed your own local land use code as obstacles to help bring relief. Can you give us some examples?
The codes were mainly related to our adoption of the flood maps and adoption of several policies that made our residents in Lee County eligible to receive discounts under the National Flood Insurance Program. So we felt like these are their regulations that they instructed us to adopt if we wanted our residents to be eligible for discounts under the Flood Insurance Program, but yet now they were holding them against us, saying, no, those are why we can't put the trailers there either. So it was really a hard position for us to be in. And it did feel like at many times along the way, we were facing the possibility of losing our discounts in the flood insurance program if we were to amend these codes in order to make things more eligible for trailer placement in flood zones. But, at the end of the day, the bottom line was, you have a person who's either sleeping in a tent, sleeping in their car, some even, according to news reports, sleeping under a bridge near Fort Myers Beach, who needed a home and a place. And like was said earlier, they would be much safer in a trailer in their driveway than they would in their car.
And so I can't help but think, because we've heard similar examples of regulation getting in the way, for example, environmental impact and that sort of thing. Under such dire circumstances, would it be proper for Congress to say all land code use goes away, all environmental rules go away, the top priority should be to get folks into a sheltered situation? What would be the practicality?
I think, that would be very appropriate, sir. When you're making policy decisions, you're always making trade-offs, right? And I think if you look at the facts that were on the ground at the time in the immediate aftermath of a storm, where you had folks who were waiting for months, sleeping in cars or sleeping in their driveways, I think those folks needed shelter more than they needed environmental regulation at that time. And so I think if you say yes to shelter, you may have to say no to environmental regulation at that time, but that is a good trade-off for the benefit of the people who needed it in that situation.
All right. Thank you for that. I was hoping that would be your response. You also mentioned in your opening comments that you thought that it would be helpful to not just hear the stories of the cavalry coming, but being able to see proof that funds had been dispersed. What type of proof would have solved that in your mind through this catastrophe?
Sir, I gained that experience in my time serving as the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce here locally. Many of the chambers, there are multiple in our county, came together to survey our membership to ask them had they been approved for a loan, and if they had been approved, had they received funds. And none of us could find a business that had received any funds at that point, and this was months after landfall. And so my question back to the agency was, great, you've told me you've approved this much money. Approval is one word. How about dispersed? That's a different word. How much money is in the hands of people? And they would not provide that metric to me. And I think as an organization that would strive for transparency, you would want to be able to both tout, we've approved this much, and this much now is actually in people's hands. It's a simple number that I assume they probably have internally.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Anderson, in your opening comments, you mentioned that you felt that there was more of a quest for process over purpose. Can you give us some examples of processes that got in the way of the purpose?
Real simply, debris pickup. Not being able to pick up the debris until we were told, go ahead and pull the trigger. And meanwhile, it's piling up. It's, like I mentioned earlier, it's safety and health issues. In some cases, it's blocking roadways. So I don't know why the process required us to wait. And then, I don't know if you're aware, but every trailer we had out there picking up debris had to have a monitor assigned to it, to the tune of $1,500 a week. Follow the truck to make sure if they're picking up horticulture, that's what went in the truck. Then when they got to the dump site, they're paying another monitor on the tower to look down and say, okay, that's horticulture. It goes over there in that pile. And it slows up the process. Although this time the debris pickup went a lot quicker than in the past. But it's little things like that. And, you know, the inspections is another one. I don't understand why FEMA can't tap into the expertise on the local level and pre-certify people from the city, from the county, to be inspectors that can read the minute that there's an emergency declared, they take off their local government cap, they put on their FEMA cap, and they go to work for FEMA. And they can start that process. They know the local area, they know the codes, they know everything that needs to be known that somebody coming from out of town doesn't know.
That's a great suggestion. Mr. Chair, I see my time has expired, so I yield. Thank you.